The characters of Red Dead Redemption 2 are often colourful and in-depth, providing a realistic touch to their ways, making your time in the game feel much more authentic. The world feels lived in because of this. Welcome to the video. You're listening to Phil of Filbee Gaming, and today we're going to be taking a look at several different non-playable characters, or NPCs for short, that were inspired by real-life people. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share with friends and family, or anyone you may feel would enjoy content such as this. If the video does relatively well, I'll continue with the series, showing even more. Please be aware, there will be spoilers ahead for the game. With that being said, let's get into what we came here to see. The inspiration behind Red Dead Redemption 2. We'll begin things today with the lovable character and wildlife photographer Albert Mason. Firstly, meeting Albert, the player will assist him in capturing the likeness of the local animal populace. Albert is clumsy, naive, and seems to be unaware of the dangers of his surroundings, but he insists on continuing on for the sheer love of his work. February of 1902 in San Francisco, California, saw the birth of one Ansel Easton Adams. When Adams was in his childhood, he suffered from sickness frequently. Due to this, he later developed a condition known as hypochondria, which caused the boy to consistently feel as if he was sick, and at times where he was actually sick, he believed the symptoms to be far worse than they were. Although he didn't have a fondness for games or sports, he did find a love for the outdoors, enjoying the beauty of nature, and frequently explored Lobos Creek, located in his home city. Throughout his youth, Ansel Adams was known to be a restless child, easily losing attention. Because of this, at the age of 12, his father, an enthusiastic astronomer, pulled him out of school and organised a private education for the boy. As he grew older, he would continue with a more formal education, and in 1917 he graduated from the Mrs. Kate M. Wilkins Private School. During a family trip in 1916 to the Yosemite National Park, Adams was stunned by the visuals of the place. He was later quoted as saying, "The splendor of Yosemite burst upon us, and it was glorious. There was light everywhere. A new era began for me." During the family stay here, Ansel's father would gift him with his first camera. He would return to Yosemite around 1 year later, this time with a much more advanced photography setup, including a better camera and tripods. Ansel Adams would continue his passion for photography throughout his life, capturing likenesses such as the Hoover Dam and the Glacier National Park. His black and white photographs would gain him a large reputation, even earning him the honor of both meeting and photographing presidents of the United States, such as Gerald Ford and Jimmy Carter. Ansel Easton Adams passed away from a cardiovascular disease on April 22, 1984, at the age of 82. He was surrounded by his wife, 2 children, and 5 grandchildren. At the train station in Valentine, players may come across a poster on the wall advertising for assistance in retrieving perfect animal carcasses by one Miss L. Hobbs. After completing all 5 hunting requests, the player is invited to the home of Miss Hobbs, where they believe the lady was using the animal pelts for clothing, but quickly learn that she is a taxidermist. After taking a tour of the home, the player is awarded with a stuffed squirrel statue that can be placed above the fire at Beech's Hope. The character of Miss L. Hobbs takes inspiration from several different influences. Walter Potter, born in Sussex, England, was a taxidermist who was most notably recognised for his work using stuffed animals to mimic human life. Originally inspired by an illustrated book of nursery rhymes shown to him by his sister, Walter would create multiple pieces of art with the animals. Some of his more recognised works include a classroom of 48 tiny rabbits, a kitten's tea party, and a guinea pig's cricket match. Secondly, Beatrice Potter, no relation to Walter, was born in West Brompton, London. Although she was born as Helen, with Beatrix being her middle name, she later preferred to use Beatrix as her primary, favouring it more. Beatrix was an author who was recognised for the publishment of the infamous children's novel, The Tale of Peter Rabbit. The writer would produce these stories in which the animals would perform with human mannerisms. This is known as anthropomorphism. Lastly, Alan Alexander Milne, who was also of English descent, having been born in Kilburn, London. Milne, very similar to Beatrix Potter, created children's literature and was famed for his creation of Winnie the Pooh, which featured in a collection of tales and told the story of a stuffed bear who became best friends with a young boy called Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin was named after Milne's own child, and Winnie the Pooh was inspired by a stuffed toy that was purchased in a Harrods department store for the son. The citizens in the world of Red Dead Redemption 2 are haunted by a series of killings. These grotesque scenes are put on display as if the creator was proud of their work. Locating all three scenes and piecing together a map will lead the player to a locked basement not far from the town of Valentine. Inside are not only more horrific scenes, but the man who created these works too, Edmund Lowry Jr. The character of Mr. Lowry is modelled after one Stephen D. Richards. Born in March 18, 1856, in Wheeling, West Virginia, Richards and his family would later move to a village called Mount Pleasant in Jefferson County, Ohio, when he was around 6 years old. Richards was well-spoken and had a charismatic and enticing personality. In 1876, at around the age of 20, he would venture out on his own, finding work in the Mount Pleasant Mental Health Institute. His duties were primarily to bury the deceased patients. At this asylum, many of the patients were subject to both neglect and abuse, although Mr. Richards would claim that he didn't witness any of this. A report in the New York Times claimed that his days working at the asylum was a significant event in his life that shaped his humanity and his view on the human race. He lost any and all empathy for other people. Leaving employment of the Institute after roughly 1 year, Richards would consort with train robbers and become something of a shootist himself. According to the man, he claimed that his first kill was a fellow traveller whom he'd encountered in the Nebraska countryside. The pair decided to set up camp for the night near Town and play a few rounds of cards. Richards, being the victor, won most of the stranger's money. The following morning, as the pair were to separate, the man demanded his losses back, to which Richards responded by killing him, claiming it was in self-defense, before disposing of the body in a nearby river. Days later, as he continued his journey, he came across another gentleman, a little outside an area called Walker's Ranch, who recognized Richards. This man was a business partner of the first victim, and when he pressured the killer for information, wound up dead himself. This spree of killings would continue, with such victims as a mother and her 3 young children, each time disposing of the bodies. Upon his capture on December 20th of 1878, back in Mount Pleasant, Richards confessed to the murder of a total of 9 victims, although some speculate the number was higher. After being transported back to Nebraska on April 26th of 1879, Stephen D. Richards was hanged until dead. This was Nebraska's first ever execution. Players who visit the Van Horn Trading Post settlement in the region of Roanoke Ridge may have encountered a stranger mission, which leads to the brawl between the protagonist and a large gentleman known as Bertram, at the Old Light Saloon. Bertram, alongside Miss Marjorie and Magnifico, are stage performers, and the player can later view their act after completing this side quest. The influence for the character of Bertram takes a very heavy inspiration from American sideshow performer Simon Metz, who went by the stage name Schlitzie. Nobody seems to be sure of the birthplace of the man, or even if Simon Metz is his real name. Schlitzie was born with microcephaly, a neurodevelopment disorder that caused him to have an unusually small skull and brain. In his early days, he worked as an attraction for several travelling carnivals. Schlitzie had a successful career on stage, performing in several acts before landing himself on the big screen in such movies as the 1934 motion capture Tomorrow's Children, and later in the 1941 crime film Meet Boston Blackie, among others. Even though he was reported to have the cognition of a 3-year-old, he was able to perform simple tasks and managed to speak a few phrases. What made Schlitzie stand out from the others was his ability to mimic what others would do and his very quick reaction timing. Schlitzie was loved by all who met the man, often being described as sociable and affectionate, with a love for dancing, singing, and being the centre of attention. Following his death in September of 1971, his legacy would continue to grow. His iconic image has been the inspiration for comic books, stories, and of course, characters such as Bertram in Red Dead Redemption 2. Even the American punk rock group The Ramones produced a song titled Pinhead, which they claimed was heavily inspired by the man. So there we have it. That was 4 Red Dead Redemption 2 characters and the inspirations behind them. If you wish to see me cover more characters of the game, or anyone in particular, let me know down below in the comment section, or by finding me over on Instagram. That's at Filbee Gaming. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you did, you all know what to do. Please consider supporting the channel by using the Patreon page, which is linked in the video description. Thank you all for watching. You've been listening to Phil, and I'll see you in the next video.